All right, just over 500 in groceries, another 250 at the liquor store. Join us and our crew on our adventures as we explore the amazing world around us. Welcome to our boat and home, Sea Venture. We hope your time with us is both entertaining and inspiring. We're on the beach in Kalinin Bay. We're getting ready to go on a hike. We've pulled the tender way up. It's going to be a 4 foot or so more exchange is all, but we wanted to be able to tie it off well. We're walking along an estuary trail. Lots of gulls in this inner part of the river where it's really low tide, and lots of eagles in the trees. No bears are here.
Yeah, that's what I mean. This is easy picking. We startled them.
Yeah, we did.
They can see our shadow. They think we're a bear.
Yeah.
This is the bear's problem.
Isn't that something? We were amazed by the number of fish in the stream. Here is an overview of the trail that we took from Kalinin Bay to the beach. The first part was the estuary trail, and we hiked up towards a lake. Because many parts of the trail were so wet, there were boardwalks and steps to help along the way. Wow. Once we got to the lake, we did the second part that went through forest, boglands, and on to the beach. Here is where we exited the forest and came out onto the beach and this spectacular view. Conveniently, the rain abated and the sun came out for our time at the beach. The beach looked like it was full of colorful surprises. The kelp and the seaweed took on just interesting colors. This looks like one of nature's corsages. Tide came in, and the tide went back out, and the tender stayed way up there.
Our tender stayed up at the high tide line.
Yeah, it sure did. Look at that.
We're way up by our rope, yeah.
The kittens even got a surprise on our return.
Kalinin Bay. Woke up this morning to beautiful sunshine. It's a minus 1.4 tide right now. So, let's see if we can capture. But it definitely looks a little bit different now. The shoreline this morning. Lots of mud flats up to the rocks. But just a beautiful setting. As we prepare to weigh anchor and head to Sitka for a few days in port. I think it's been 23 days since we've been to a dock.
This is leaving Kalinin Bay at a low tide and zero tide. Exiting Kalinin Bay on a gorgeous sunny morning.
On our way to Sitka this morning, having just left Salisbury Sound. We should have a real enjoyable 4-hour cruise today into town. You can travel from Peril Strait to Sitka without being exposed to the North Pacific because these channels go behind a series of barrier islands and islets. The sun has come out and the cloud cover is lifting. The weather is looking great for the day. This shows the plotted course from the anchorage into Sitka. While not required, it works best if you can time your transit with the currents. Because these channels flood from both the north and south part, the trip is going to be against the current for some part of the time. We try to plan in these cases based on the highest current values so the adverse impact is minimized. It's important that you plot your course in advance. In the United States, the rule of thumb for buoys is red right returning. That is, you keep the red buoy on your right when returning from sea. I say in the United States because international maritime rules are the exact opposite. In these channels, what is returning from sea? You'll see it depends on which way you're going in the channel, since either direction could be returning from sea. As a result, you'll find channels which seem to arbitrarily have the buoys on the opposite side. My recommendation, just know your waterways. There's different rules for the ICW on the east coast of the United States. There's rules relating to whether you're going upstream or downstream, clockwise or counterclockwise. Lots of ways these buoys can be set up. Usually it's pretty intuitive looking at a chart, but it may not be so intuitive looking out the window. Thus, plan ahead and you should be in good shape. When approaching from the north, you cruise past Halibut Point, and you begin to see buildings which give way to the town of Sitka. The town's waterfront is located on a channel, and while in most locations in Alaska, the marina is protected by a breakwater, in Sitka, the channel is protected by the breakwater. As a result, inside the breakwater is the anchorage, marinas, and all of downtown Sitka. After a few weeks out cruising, we're entering Eliason Harbor in Sitka. This is at 20 times actual speed, so what you're watching in 20 seconds actually took about 7 minutes.
We've been checking things out. We are now at the dock in the Sitka Marina at the Eliason Harbor. And here there's some pleasure craft and a lot of fishing vessels. Also another very cool and interesting marina.
Our first night included a spectacular sunset over Sitka. With the sun in the west over the North Pacific, it just couldn't get any better. It was about 9:30 p.m., great time to just relax and enjoy having made it to the outer coast of Baranof Island and one of our favorite destinations over the years, Sitka.
The Eliason Harbor in Sitka. There's a True Value nearby, there's a grocery store nearby, fuel station.
But you have to say what the real focus of today's trip downtown is, to find Wi-Fi so we can upload YouTube video. It's about a mile walk into town along the little 2-lane, relatively busy road. First stop, library, and uploading a YouTube video. We stopped by the visitor center. It would be an understatement to say they've not been busy this year. Sitka, without a cruise terminal downtown, still feels like an Alaskan town not overrun by the cruise industry, but they've still been impacted in 2020 by the lack of tourism. The creek downtown was still, though, full of salmon. We stopped at the big True Value, got all the little things we thought we needed, and had a great time. The store is actually well-stocked, large, and about 500 feet from the head of the dock in Sitka. Now it was time for a stop at LFS Marine, the cruiser's toy store, and it does not disappoint. It's a large store located very close to the marina. Has a little bit of everything the cruiser and active boater, fisherman, hunter might need. Both recreational and commercial gear, a little bit of everything. We did manage to fill up our cart with all types of goodies. Well, here's something you don't see every day. They were getting ready to hoist this car onto the back of a fishing boat. We walked to the Raptor Center in Sitka. It was a great educational experience. Most summers, they have 150 or so visitors at a time, but today there was only a handful of us. Here, they care for and rehabilitate birds of prey and, if possible, release them back into the wild. What we did learn during our visit from the experts there is that cats, specifically our Blake and Barkley, are not really threatened by eagles. Eagles can lift about 50% of their body weight, or about 7 pounds. So it appears the kids are safe from being snatched from the flybridge by a bald eagle.
Here's a lovely view of the waterfront out just on the north end of Sitka, about a mile out of town. There you can see the breakwater to the marina where we're at. And we are, of all things, in the parking lot of SeaMart Foods. All right, we're at the SeaMart, and there's some smiling face. And we are getting our groceries. We're partway through our list, and now we have to go get produce. That's the next big thing. So we're on our way. Right, our cart is full of plastic bags because that's how it works around here. But this is the produce department in this grocery store. All right, just over 500 in groceries, another 250 at the liquor store, and a super big thank you to some viewers, Chuck and Missy, for letting us use their vehicle to load it up.
Yeah, hoo-hoo!
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, we do from time to time leave the water slowly running so that Blake can play in it, because he just loves to do so all the time. We sure are glad we have our 1,200 gallons of fresh water plus a water maker. We thought this was the strangest thing. A commercial fish boat setting his net right by downtown. We later learned he was outside the hatchery, and they were helping catch the fish so they could harvest the eggs for the hatchery. The little speedboat you're seeing right here goes back and forth to try to keep the fish from leaving the net before it's closed up. The set that we watched, they caught so many fish he couldn't even lift the net out of the water. So another fish boat came up alongside, and together they were able to vacuum the fish right out of the net. Here in Sitka, topped off on fuel, so we added 400 gallons of diesel just so we're nice and full for the winter. Added 15 more gallons of oil for oil changes, 5 gallons of diesel for a project we'll talk about later, and 15 more gallons of tender dinghy gas. A complete comprehensive fuel stop in Sitka.
Oh, wait, you forgot. Somewhere out there is a propane can there.
Oh yeah, then we're gonna do one more propane. All right. Well, it's time for another session of Sea Ventures Q&A, which is turning into be a pretty popular little segment at the end of each video. You know, I really do enjoy the idea that our videos could be interactive, interesting, and even maybe a little educational, or at least explaining what we do as it relates to boating. So, today's Q&A is going to be more like show and tell, because I think all three questions we're going to do, it's going to be easier to show you than tell you. But the first question comes from Bruce. And Bruce says, "Hey there, I came across your videos and channel while daydreaming about my plans to retire in the Pacific Northwest and cruise the Puget Sound, BC and inner passages. So thanks for being such great role models for me." Wow, thanks Bruce. I don't know about that though. "First time submitting a comment in hopes of adding something to an upcoming Q&A." Well, there you go, Bruce, you got it. Two-part question. "I've been drooling about all the delicious bounty you're reaping while fishing and crabbing in Alaska. So my two questions. One, what type of fishing and crabbing license do you have for Alaska and British Columbia? And two, how do you process and store the bounty if you're catching but not able to consume right away? Thanks, Bruce." Well, good questions, Bruce. The license parts are pretty easy. This year, because we just transited through British Columbia and you couldn't fish anyway, we did not buy a Canadian fishing license. Alaskan fishing license, we simply bought and online while we were cruising. I actually did it as we crossed into the Alaskan waters in Dixon Entrance. We have a printer on board and simply print them out, so we didn't have to go anywhere to do it. The out-of-state license, I think, is just under $250 per person in Alaska. Good for the calendar year, so pretty soon here in a few weeks we'll be buying them again so we can keep crabbing and fishing. The part two of the question, how do we process the fish? Well, we clean the fish on the new swim step now, so thankfully the fish can all be completely cleaned before coming on board the boat, which makes Rosie very happy, and actually me too. So no fish parts inside the boat. And then we cut up, vacuum seal, and freeze right away. So let's head down to the freezer and we'll just show you how the finished packages look. All right, after we've used our seal-a-mealer from Costco and vacuum sealed the fish, they come down here to the lazarette where Rosie's going to show you.
Frigidaire freezer, nothing exciting here. Your usual typical chest freezer.
Yep.
It's a small little guy, but it certainly has worked well for us. So in here we have our crab. Usually what we do is we cook it, we shell it, and then we put it in 2-cup portions and seal-a-meal it. It gets it really compact, and that's how we like to use it in recipes. This is halibut, good old Hallie. Here's some salmon, again just seal-a-mealed. We also have some extra treats like smoked salmon.
Woohoo!
Gotta win. And we did, if you're not catching, you can always buy from the local fishermen. And this is some awesome spot prawns. So we have some of those in here too. And yeah, I think that's about it.
So there's
for the cat helping.
For the cat helping, banging the camera.
Yeah.
So our freezer, we still have plenty of all, and we sent. How much did we packed up a frozen box, sent it on Alaska Airlines to the kids, so they picked it up like 4 hours later in Seattle. I think 80 pounds of salmon and halibut and crab we sent them.
Yep.
No prawns though. Right, our next question has actually been asked by several people, and it's another question about the cats. So I'm a little concerned that we get as many cat questions as we do boat questions, but that's okay. This is a Blake and Barkley question, and that is, how do we deal with and what type of cat litter do we use for the cats? That's an easy one that we got from other boaters, and I think a lot of boaters use. We used it when we had our home too, and that's the Purina Tiny Cats Breeze. It's the little pellets. They work great for a bunch of reasons, but let's go downstairs and take a look and explain to you why. I think if you have a cat, you really don't want the little sand, gravel stuff they track all over the place. There's a better solution to that. So let's go.
All right, we are in our master stateroom bathroom. And while it's definitely a bathroom for the parents, it's also a bathroom for the kittens. And so the cats have their litter box. We kind of have an alcove or a corner over here. And so that is where we've kept their litter box. They clearly are supervising any activity going on in here. So can you come on over? So this is the Breeze Tidy Cat system. And what we like about it is that, let's see if I can show you, it just has some pellets. And so it doesn't have any dust. It's not clumping. They don't track it. Well, here we go. They do a little bit. They don't track it out much. And we just scoop the poop, and down below is a little pee pad. So the pee just goes through.
Yeah, Rosie, so what happens when they pee in it?
It goes through it.
It disappears.
It disappears, and that's the best thing ever. It goes onto a little pee pad. We change that periodically. And the better deal is that we don't have huge bags of pellets. We have these little refill packs that we can stack, and I think I have like 6 months worth of these guys. I change them about once a month, every 3 weeks to a month, and they pack well. They're not susceptible to moisture. Anyway, they've worked really well for us. Most importantly, there's no dust, so that's the best part of it.
I can't get him to demonstrate.
So, at any rate, and then the pee
The
pads
pads
that go with it. So
cool, and we will put a link in the description below to those items if you're interested in learning more about them. Last question for today. We've been asked by a few different people to show us launching our tender from the upper deck. And I think those questions probably come from the fact that our tender weighs about 800 pounds. And we have it about 15 feet off the water when we're launching it off the upper deck. And that sounds kind of ominous, and that could be. But we did set up a couple cameras and launch the tender here in Wrangell, Alaska at the dock, because actually we use the tender to get to town. It's about a mile to downtown, and there's a dock right downtown. So when we go grocery shopping, we go in the tender. Just how we're doing it. A little cold sometimes, but that's how we're doing it. But let's show the video of us launching the tender and explain some more about what's going on. Okay, well, we fast forward through getting the tender ready. We simply just take the cover off. We have it locked down to the deck with 4 different straps. We have some stuff to get out of it. And so let's talk about our crane a little bit. Our crane was part of our refit, and if you haven't seen the refit series, you can go back and see that series of videos. It is a 14-foot long crane arm, rated for minimum of 3,500 pounds. There's 2 electric motors that are both 3,500 pound motors as well. The fact is, all the braking strength of everything is much, much higher than that. But the tender weighs about 800 pounds. The naval architect did all the design work and wanted to make sure that we could lift the tender totally out of the water up onto the boat with no trouble, even if it was full of water, had an injured person and another person on board. So that's a significant safety factor in raising the crane up out of the water if needed. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. What we really like about it is that we can launch and retrieve the tender on either side of the boat, which is really nice to have. We always lift the crane up about a foot and make sure everything looks good. We have a 3-point harness in the tender and just make sure everything looks good. Then we lift it up far enough to bring up over the railings. The boom arm pretty much swings over by itself just by the slight list of the boat that starts occurring, but we can what's called vane the crane over or pull a line over, and you'll see Rosie pull the line over and kind of lock the crane arm over. So here the tender's hanging about half off the edge of the boat and half over. So now we can bring the boom arm down, which basically moves the tender out, and down she goes. Kind of clear the railing and everything, and you can see the list of Sea Venture by having that 800 pounds hanging up in the air off of over the edge. So as you can see, Rosie's the crane operator. At this point, I head downstairs and to kind of catch the tender from down there.
Blake, say hi. Barkley, say hi. There we go.
Come on down. With the new swim platform now, I don't bother to tie the tender off on the side of the boat. I just jump in, disconnect the cable, lower the motor, start up the new engine. Have to really enjoy that brand new 40 horsepower Yamaha. And then I take the tender back to the swim step where we can easily get on and off. Then today it's off to downtown and grocery shopping. All right, that's a wrap for the Q&A show and tell. Remember, if you got a question, leave it in the comments. Send us an email at cruisingseaventure@gmail.com. But until next time, wishing you no wind and flat seas. Bye.